on the Camaro? No. We're working on the Nova. Yes, it is back on jack stands. It is currently Tuesday. We have to have the car running and driving and ready to race by Friday night because Saturday there is a street fights. But that's not what this video is about. This video is to teach you and to show you how I am going to throw a battery in the trunk. So we're going to do a battery relocation setup in the Nova, which I've been wanting to do for a while now. And I'm just finally getting around to do it. Honestly, so full rundown here. This is going to be a lot easier for me because we've already done a ton of wiring on this car to begin with. And what we've done already just happened to work out to make it super easy for us to do this. So normally you have to find some sort of way to cut out ignition, coil wire, something like that to make your switch work in the back because at least if you are racing. So actually, let me rephrase myself. So it is very easy to put a battery in the trunk of your car. All you have to do is throw a battery box, like say that one, in your car and run a big huge wire from the back to the front. And that's all you have to do. And you make sure you hook it to the starter, make sure wherever you're getting 12 volts from powers the rest of the car to where it powers it like it normally would, and you're done. And that is what I'm going to be doing, but I am also adding in a shutoff. So what I am doing, because for NHRA and for drag racing stuff, you need to have some sort of battery kill switch or something like that in the back of the car. And you can't just have the battery kill switch hooked up to the 12 volts all the way to the front. You have to have some way of killing ignition or fuel system or something in that setup, in that wiring harness that you have, in order to do that. And that's because if something happens when you're at the racetrack and you go into the wall, if something happens and your engine's still running, if it's like full throttle, something's weird, someone can come running behind the car and hit, a pull switch, a push off, or something like that. They can hit something in this area quickly outside the car to shut the engine off. And that way, for safety reasons, they can just do that. And by you putting it in the back, that kind of allows that to make it a little bit easier. And you may ask, why do they do that when you put a battery in the trunk versus when you have it in the front of a car like you normally would? The answer is that is OEM. So it's factory, which just means that you get by with, they allow you to do a lot of stuff that's OEM. Just like how new cars that you see running, I think they can run 999 without a cage just because of new safety stuff. Which I don't know about you, but 990, it's like 140, 130 miles an hour. That's hauling. I would not want to not have a roll cage running that fast. But anyway, I digress. So I have a quick little wiring diagram here that's very poorly made. And this is what I'm going to be doing. It is at this moment where I would like to inform you before you start bashing on your keyboard and telling me how wrong I am with my poorly created diagram, that March Colin didn't understand what he was talking about, and October Colin does at this point. So if you watch to the end of this video or you skip towards the end of the video, you can see what we actually ended up doing to create a kill switch, because the setup that we put into this right at this point did not actually work. So just take that with a grain of salt and hope you enjoy the rest of the video. And if you want to skip to the end, you can do that and see what we actually came up with. But the actual installation stuff is still correct. It's just how you actually make the kill switch work is maybe a little bit misconstrued in the beginning. Have fun. Because we've done a lot of background work, like I said before, so we already have a switch 12 volts panel that's over here hooked up. So that's running the fuel injection, that's running a lot of stuff separate from that, and it's ran through a bus panel that I have that's by the battery. And that bus panel is hooked up. I forgot how we have it hooked up exactly. Excuse me. But basically what's going to happen is now, so here's your push off on button. Here's my new switch, which I'll show you guys in a second. Battery will be here, so we'll have the ground drill. We'll drill a hole. We'll have the ground hooked up to the frame or something somewhere. Positive is going to go to this switch right here. Pot is going to come out, run down to the starter. I'm either going to run it straight, home run it to the starter, or I'm going to home run it to this. Either way, I don't know if it really matters. But basically, I'll have a wire coming from this to that. And what will happen is I have this handy dandy switch that's going to have a push on or a push off, and you push a little switch right here. It's going to be this guy. You push that. We're just going to push that, and it's going to disconnect these two guys from each other, which will kill power in the car. Now, saying that, like I mentioned before, this way, like I mentioned before in my diagram, we already have had the groundwork set up to where, by me doing this, we already have it wired up to where that switch 12 volts panel that's under the dash of the car, that's running the FI tech system, and that's running the fuel pump to the back of the car, that's running this kind of stuff around here. And by me switching that off, it's going to kill power to this bus panel right here, and that's going to kill power to the engine, and it's going to shut it off. We have already tested this. It does work. It is this wire right here. So we already did that. If you didn't already do that and you're trying to wire this in like NHRA certifiable, or you're trying to want to run, you know, past tech, stuff like that, make sure you have relays and other stuff in route, in line for that, and make sure you don't have any, excuse me, I just ate chicken parmesan's fighting back. Anyway, you want to make sure you have it set up to where there's no parasitic draw or parasitic battery loss, because you don't want the battery killing the car every, you know, you don't want the car killing the battery every, you know, couple weeks or whatever, because that would suck. And especially if you like, or it can be even really bad and like it'll kill it like every couple days. We've totally had that before. But like I was saying, so I will show you guys real quick just the relay panel that I have over here. So you can see, let me get you, okay. So under the dash, you see all my fuses. So that's for the FI Tech fuel system. That's for, I can't remember what all that's for, but it's powering like the fans, all the switch 12 volt stuff we have in the car. That's what's running that. And then there's the big, huge relay that we have for it. And basically, because we did all this already, we already have done the groundwork for that. I don't need to worry about doing anything else. I just have to hook it up like a dum-dum normally would. You run the big, huge wire front. You hook that up to the starter. I run the normal, the factory wire that I have going to the starter. So this guy right here, instead of it going to this post, it's going to go to this bus panel right here, which that's what's powering pretty much all the car right there. So that's an issue. That's all I have to do as far as this goes. One other thing that you want to make sure when you're doing all this is confirm that your alternator is not powering the car at any point when you're doing this. Because if the alternator somehow is powering the car and you hooked something up to where it kills the battery, the alternator can still be powering the car and can keep the engine running. So it's just little wiring gremlin things that you have to kind of like pay attention to. But for us, it's going to be super easy because we've already done the work. So because we've already done it, I'm going to stop saying that because I'm going to say it 10 more. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to get into the actual meat and potatoes here of getting stuff done. This is the Jag switch system that we're going to be using. This is a Moroso battery box kit. That is, I think, 0. Is this 0 or 1? That's 0 gauge wire. You want to try to find the biggest wire you possibly can. This is from Amazon. This was like 80 bucks for 25 feet. I think it's pretty decent. So definitely a nice wire. You want to try to run nice wire. I know there's plenty of guys, if you're trying to go low, don't go, you can run jumper cables, and for the most part, they always just work. But I didn't want to do that because I like this car. So I went and I spent a little bit more money on some wire, but you can spend it on $200 wire, you can spend it on $30 wire. You can go to Harbor Freight and get jumper cables, and they probably will just work. But saying that, you know, you get what you pay for. Battery box, plastic, we gotta drill a hole in for this guy. In enough to where it's on this plate, on this pad right here, to where it's flush. But also to where our shutoff rod isn't gonna be interfering with it at all. And we have to figure out how to mount this guy, which is the cutoff switch that we have. We have to figure out how to do all that. We have to drill some holes in this guy. We have to drill some holes in the floor. We got to run our nice 0 gauge wire that we have right here. So I bought this guy from Amazon. I think it was like 60 bucks for 25 feet of it. It is, I think that's Garrett. Yeah, Garrett 0 gauge ground standard wire. It's pretty nice wire. It's soft, so that kind of tells you the quality of it. Yeah, I think it'll be decent. I know a lot of guys, when they're just doing low go, they'll use jumper cables, which is totally fine. I'm not going to. Maybe at some point I'll end up using those, but for this car, particularly today, I'm not going to. So that's the wire that we're going to use. We have to drill holes kind of somewhere in this area right here. They give you grommets with the battery box, so that's cool. We have to drill holes for these two rods. These are the mounting rods for the battery box, as well as mount the battery into the car. So we got to get those tapped and drilled in, and that's the battery hold down strap right there. So this isn't that big of a deal of the thing to do. It's just basically you got to figure out if you're going to do the whole NHRA certified thing. The switch that you're going to run, they have some that are, like I said, the twist on off, and then they also have a push on push off one. This switch actually can do both, so they came with this little guy right here that, you know, as you can watch, I can put this on, it'll see, it switches, it rotates like that, or you can hook it up like this, like I'm doing. I had literally no way of hooking this just up to the car. I mean, especially where I wanted to put it. I guess I could have just ran it like that, but yeah. So if in case you didn't already tell what I'm doing, I've already drilled a hole in my reverse backup light. That one will still work intermittently. I don't know why they just like intermittently work, but I've drilled a hole in this. We already put the tape on it, and with the whole thing about it looking is I want it to try to be inconspicuous as possible. Is, you know, that. And then you just push off. We'll put some heat shrink on this guy to try to insulate this a little bit and try to keep some water out. Originally I was going to grab a rubber bushing or some sort of gasket to go around it, and they give you this guy for that reason, but this thing is absolutely huge compared to that. So I want to try to keep as much water and condensation out of the trunk as possible, because this will open it up some. So I think some heat shrink on this guy will do perfect for that. But I'll shut up here in a sec. I'll shut up. I'll start working on getting the battery box mounted. Well, that's number one. Alright, so a little guesstimation and everything. We got the two holes drilled. I ended up repainting everything. There's a little bit of surface rust in the corner right here, so just kind of wire wheeled it and got that all cleaned up. And it is being painted and dried right now, so we're going to let that guy sit overnight. I got the two holes drilled in the battery box, so that's good. And those two holes are on the outside of the edge of it, but that's about where, I mean, this thing wants it to sit, and that's about where the battery should be. So I also put it just, as you can see, it's a little bit not quite centered up, and that is because right here, if I did put it center in there, right about here, that would actually be right in line with the frame. The frame rail's literally, that's kind of why this hole's a little goofy. Yeah, that hole's just a little goofy. That's because literally the frame rail is right there. And I wish I could move it over just a little bit more and put these big huge washers on it, but the issue is if I put it any further over, really, I can't get the battery actually in the box, and that defeats the whole purpose of it. So we're gonna let that guy sit overnight. Turn the LED light off. All right, we are back into it for a little bit longer. I've been working on it off and on all day today, trying to get things kind of rolling on it because it is Wednesday night and we need to have this thing ready Friday night to race Saturday. Yeah, so I have everything painted up. Right now we have 2 holes drilled right here. So these are, let me get my trusty side nut right there. That is going to be positive, that's negative. We have the battery switch right there. It is mounted the way it should. We just have the actual lever itself mocked up, so that's about where it's going to be right there. Push off, on, off, on, and obviously it's not actually like hooked up to anything. That's just the gravity. As you can see, it fell off. But yeah, so that's what kind of the general thing back here is going to do. I gotta put a breather in it. I gotta put we gotta put the battery wire cables in. We have to drill a hole somewhere in this region here. Basically what's going to happen is battery post is here, say, wire is going to come out there. It's going to connect to this one. Coming out of this one is going to be the actual feed wire. That feed wire is going to go straight down into under the frame, and it's going to run all the way down where it is going to connect into right there, which is where I already have wires set up. I drilled a hole right there. It's going to be zip tied to all of that stuff right there. That's the fuel line and some other stuff, so it's going to be in line with all that. And then we're going to start by having it hooked up to right here, to that bus fuse. And then this right here is our current power wire that was in here before. We're obviously need to actually have the real connectors. But this wire is going to hook up right there. That's going to run down to the starter. This guy's going to feed that. So theoretically, hopefully, if this works how I think it's going to work, hopefully we'll have any voltage drop in anything. And this guy will just go there, and this guy will hook in right there, and I hook up all of this wire right here to that, and we're done. I will, once this engine comes out, when we put an oil pan and stuff on it, we use some other stuff, probably next month or maybe the month after that, we'll see. I will clean up this wiring and stuff so that way it actually looks presentable, because that looks horrific. I may even put this guy back. We'll see. I may put that guy back in it for right now. I don't know, just to hide stuff. But it honestly doesn't look that bad. Most of this here is just really long. Like this guy right here is super long because it has all the inline fuses. And this guy is the inline fuse. That guy is an inline fuse. What would be really cool is if I got a fuse block and I put it like right here. So you had a fuse block next to the FI-Tech, and you know, this had a bus panel right here that just had like a bus head right here kind of thing. Like how this is, and this, you know, went there, power went down there, and this would power that fuse block right there. That would be the fancy thing to do, but I'm not doing that today. I'm not doing that tonight. Yep, that's the plan. It's very high-tech. We are very high-tech, but I got the battery box mounted in. It's really nice and tight in here. And the other thing to think about too is the battery box doesn't necessarily need to be like super stout in here. It just needs to literally hold the battery, because the battery is going to act as a washer in here once you put the plate on. Because if you think about it, plate goes over the battery, battery goes on floor, washers are on the other side of the floor. So basically the battery is your big huge washer going straight down. So as a dumb way of thinking about it, you don't need to have, say, washers or anything on those studs coming up. You just need to make sure they basically don't wobble around and they're not being weird. Back to time lapse. All right, it's been a number of days again because I had to go to work. But first off, valve covers. Ooh, I need to get studs for them because my studs are too short because they're cast aluminum. Anyway, so long story short, I am working on putting connectors on this guy to put right there and to make zzz noises. And because of one little thing, I got 0 gauge wire like I told you before, and I've already finished the back. So this is a 0 gauge connector. That is just the old stock ground wire off the car already. These are for the 0 gauge wire. Those are 2 gauge connectors because I literally could not find any 0 gauge connectors in the Tri-Cities area of where I'm at. Now saying that, 2 gauge and 0 gauge, I mean the car already had 2 gauge wire in it before. This is a lot longer for the power to travel. However, saying that, should be okay. I'm not cutting that much wire out of it. And I need the car together for tomorrow because again, we're racing. Today's Friday. So 2 gauge will be fine. So we're putting these guys on. I am trimming up the wire just a little bit. So you can already see I've kind of trimmed this one up a little bit. And I probably have to cut this one short a little bit more on the top. But for those fittings right there, and then I just press them in with my accoutrement down there. You should also have a crimp for the big terminals like that, big lug crimps, but I don't have one. So vice grips and my regular crimps suffice well. I mean, it gets tight, so that's all it needs. Alright, so there's no zappy boys. Switch is functional. Push to off. Hypothetically speaking, that's push off. So it should be on. Just turn lights on. The clock is running, so that tells you we have power. There's no lights. Let me see if I put that switch in reverse. It's totally possible I did that because I just put it in there. Yep, switch is in reverse. Okay. But hey, that means the switch works. Alright, so I did the old switcheroo. I loosened up that nut right there. Now it functions like it should, so push off. Lights no come on, they no worky. But you do the old pull. Now we got some powers. Yeah. And the FI tech comes on, which is good. So proof of concept. Now we just need to make sure the shutoff actually works the way it should, and the car runs and doesn't catch on fire, and we should be good for tomorrow. So I'll catch you guys back up once I get the engine bay back together, and we can pop this baby off and see if it actually works. So see you in a bit. Welcome back to a video that is literally months in the making and is now October. I started doing this video in March, and there's probably people that are out there going, I wonder when he's ever going to post that video. Well, I was doing this all hopefully trying to get a solution to an issue that we had at the end of that video. So when we did all that work, everything works the way it should. The battery cables are routed from the front, from that bus panel I have, all the way to the trunk, which I'll show you everything that we did. There was a battery switch installed and all the good stuff. However, with the car running, you would put that switch in and it would not kill the car. And that is because there's a little tune, and if people have already relocated their battery and they figured all this out, you know what I'm talking about. The alternator was powering the car. So once the battery was shut off from the car, the alternator just took over and was running the car from that on. So what we had to do was figure out a way to bypass the alternator and disconnect it from the rest of the engine, and this is what we did. So, engine, it now runs. If you watched my prior videos earlier this week, you'll see everything we did. So the engine's now blue instead of orange. So what ended up happening is there's now wires coming off the back of the alternator like they normally do, but instead of going to that bus panel, which is how I had it connected before, I have this wire right here coming off the back of my alternator. It runs through this, it comes across, and it goes to this bus right here. So there's a little bus panel right there, and then you have this big huge 0 gauge wire, I think it's 01, that runs from there all the way to the back of the car, and that is actually now the charge wire for the whole car. You could probably get away with doing a little bit smaller, but when I was looking on Amazon, it's ridiculous. 01 wire was actually cheaper than getting like 4 gauge. Tell me why that makes sense. And it was actually like nice wire. It's not cheap junk that, you know, will light on fire after 6 months. It's actually like decent. It's nice and coated. It's all good and pretty. I don't know. Tell me why that makes sense. Anyway, battery box is in. We got it all mounted. It's all nice and pretty. Now you have the output wire. This is the output wire going to the car. That's powering the rest of the car. Here's your new alternator charge wire. And then here's the battery, that bus panel. This is the main power wire to the car. Have them separate. They're already in, done. So now you have this guy. That's power in. That's power from the alternator coming into this to charge the battery. So that all works together. You have the ground wire that comes out right here. Ground wire goes down through that hole and it goes to the frame. I also, because there's going to be someone going, wait, you don't have it grounding to the engine. I don't have that grounding to the engine. But on the chassis ground, there's also another one. You can see it right down there. That is another 01 wire down there. That is grounding the chassis to the engine. Is that necessarily what you should do? There's a lot of ground wires in this car because of that reason right there. So there's that one big huge wire. There's still the valve cover ground straps coming off the back, but the factory harness. And then that one's going to the frame, which I know is a good ground, is a good contact, and all that stuff. So all that works. It should be totally fine for the car forever. I mean, it should just work. But enough of me talking. Let me show you the switch actually working in practice. And you get to hear the car. The next thing you'll see is me working on tuning the FI tech, because right now I have to give it a little bit of throttle. We'll see if I have to get around that or not. Alright. Car runs, sounds good. Bam. No power anywhere in the car. Now, we pull that guy on. Ta-da! Power again. Woohoo! Easy as that. So, my tips for you, as far as if you want to put a battery in your trunk and you want to relocate it and make it all NHRA certifiable, make yourself bona fide to where you can go racing and not get your butt whooped by some 80-year-old tech guy that's going to be like, you don't have her, sir, and he's going to be all angry at you and kick you out of the track, and you'll be upset and never want to go to the racetrack again. Do that. Make sure your alternator is in line with the rest of the battery. There may be a better way of doing it. That's just the way we ended up doing it. If you have a better way, comment that down below. But in the meantime, that is all what I have for you today. Be sure to check out thedailymisfire.com for all of our new merch. We got new 6 Smoky road trip t-shirts coming out because in less than 10 days, that's stressful, in less than 10 days, we're going to be going on a 1,500-mile road trip with this car and that car. And that car is getting a new converter. Yeah. Both of these cars were completely apart, like, days ago. And now they're going to go 1,500 miles. So if you want to follow that, watch all those videos, be sure to check out the Daily Misfire, subscribe, and with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.